Hello out there, Internet. It is November 15th, 2018, and this is the weekly Backdrop Dev meeting in which we go over the current development tasks for Backdrop CMS, kind of give some updates on the world of Contrib and the website, and just generally check in on the status of everything Backdrop. Anybody can join these meetings. As always, they're open. The easiest way to get a hold of one is to follow us on Twitter or check the Gitter chat channel where the link to the Hangout is posted just minutes before it happens. And on Twitter, the agenda is posted publicly with a link to the agenda will then ultimately include the Hangout link as it is created. So updated live as we do these meetings. So let's get started today. Updates from the PMC, I'll reiterate, I think this announcement happened last week that we passed a PMC vote to make it so that GPL3 is considered acceptable in Contrib projects, while we still encourage GPL2, and everything is always GPL2 or higher. We encourage GPL2 by default, but GPL3 within reason if you need to incorporate Apache licensed dependencies, then GPL3 is considered acceptable. We don't have any community updates, I don't think. The only contributed project we've gotten in the past week is that image formatter link to image style. Is that the whole name of the module? Is it? That's quite the quite the name there, but it says what it does, I suppose. So fairly limited activity over there in the Contrib world, but yeah, still lots of action happening throughout Backdrop. Website related tasks. We've got backdropcms.org. We've got an ongoing issue in issue 442. Jen Lampton has been putting some effort into making modules, themes, and layouts search functionality work better. You can follow over in that issue 442. I think that so far there isn't anything to look at as far as updates are concerned. I think that she's just stated that she's making some progress on it and to keep a lookout for changes coming down the pipe in that issue. Let's see, 476 is an issue that covers sandbox functionality and the way that 476 in the backdropcms.org issue queue is some discussion about the way that sandboxes work and the way that we're using Pantheon. We kind of covered this extensively in the outreach meeting just prior to this. So if you're interested in hearing about some changes coming about how we can do the try a demo button on the homepage, then you can check out that video recording. And we've got some interesting things coming along there. And lastly, we have just an ongoing desire for us to get single sign-on working across backdropcms.org properties and also to integrate with GitHub. And so making it so that we have GitHub single sign-on capability with backdropcms.org, and then make it so that other sites use backdropcms.org to do their login, probably through Bakery module. Then we would be able to kind of unify our login systems and also integrate with GitHub at the same time. That's still kind of wish list type territory. I don't think that we've seen any real progress on that, but it's something that we would like to implement for backdropcms.org. Let's see, we don't have any updates on the forum, the API site, or the translation site, so I'm going to skip over those sections for today. Let's go into the project's progress report, which is how development is coming along on Backdrop CMS itself. We've got a number of items here slated for the next bug fix release, which is 1.11.3. Some of these haven't seen a lot of activity in the past couple of weeks, but we keep mentioning them. Some of the things are tidying up from the 1.11 release, especially regarding the color module implementation. 392 is, or 3209, is an issue for adding predefined color schemes to Basis. There's been some concern that we should run the color schemes that come or that are being suggested there through an accessibility checker. We've been trying to get some design eyes on that, but considering the continued designer lack of presence, I think it might be good if you don't need to be a designer to look over it. And I think we've had 2 people look at it and say, "Yeah, it looks pretty good to me." So we can waive that if there's no other people available for doing the design review. It might be best just to go ahead and merge it in. One great thing about these color schemes is that we can actually change them at any time without negatively affecting existing sites. We did this for the Bartik color schemes. We changed them to be better way back in like Backdrop 1.2 or something like that. And it just makes it so that sites that upgrade, they're just no longer using a predefined color scheme. They just start using a custom one instead. So I think we should proceed. Stop holding that one up. I do think running it through the accessibility checker is still a really great idea, though. We have an issue with the preview in some versions of Safari on macOS. The preview doesn't show up when trying out new colors. That's issue 3295. We have a confirmed version on that issue, but there hasn't been any code put behind that issue yet. One small regression regarding the new info status message. It affects the available updates page. That's issue 3305. That issue is marked ready to be committed, or reviewed and tested by community. So that one's just on our core team to do the merging. That's great. Recently discovered a rather substantial regression that clean URLs cannot be enabled after the initial site installation. Thanks, Joseph, for bringing this to our attention for this meeting. That's issue 2488. That one has a pull request already, needs review. I think it's marked reviewed and tested by community in the issue queue here. So yeah, there's 2 pull requests actually. Both of them are required. It looks like this is marked ready to be committed, so we should get core committer eyeballs on that as soon as possible. Recently brought up that Backdrop, when it creates class names, it does not allow underscores. It changes them all to hyphens in CSS classes. That's 3365. This has become an issue for sites that are trying to implement BEM style classes. We do need some feedback and discussion on that one, because there might be some backwards compatibility effects there that the class names might change because of that modifying underscores to hyphens. Like whenever we pass a machine name through, let's see, what is it? Backdrop CSS identifier or something like that. There's a function in which does those conversions. Backdrop clean CSS identifier. There we go. So we need to figure out a way to make that backwards compatible, but also allow for BEM style class names. Let's see.
For that one, it was basically either block things in the UI wherever we add the classes, or add the help text to the people to let people know that this is happening, or actually allow them, which is what most people are leaning towards.
Yeah, at the very least, you're right that we should at least tell people, hey, that our underscore you put in there is actually going to change to a hyphen, because that's just confusing.
Yeah, with machine names, when we type things, they don't actually allow you to type disallowed characters. So if we are to disallow things, then we should implement something similar. But the thing is that so far we have been allowing them. So there's existing data.
Okay, great. Let's see. Did you just insert in this one about path entity insert as well? Do you want to describe that one for me?
Yes. So this was a problem that was causing PHP notices when paragraphs, nodes with paragraphs were being added and deleted, but not when they were being updated. So there is a pull request, and it's been RTBC'd, as in it fixes things and it looks like the code is okay. What we need there is a decision, because there was a hint at the beginning of the issue whether this should be solved in core or if it belongs in contrib. But if we can fix things in core, I guess, yeah. So it's RTBC, but it needs feedback.
Okay, that's issue 3377. Great. And also in the category of things that you've been putting together, Gregory, we have a new version of Drupal 7 that came out, which was really kind of surprising, mostly in that there hasn't been a new version anytime more recently.
There have been 3 releases, but there were security releases. There wasn't a release that included anything.
Yep. Yeah. So there's finally an issue or a new release of Drupal that includes new functionality, bug fixes, non-security related bug fixes, and actually a few API additions. And Clonosis made a great issue at 3375 that covers all of the commits that are in Drupal 7.61 with a fair number of pull requests actually already porting a number of those patches. So we can merge those in. Our policy is really to do them as soon as possible. We don't need to wait for a minor version for implementing cross ports unless they're API additions, and then we might push a few of those over to 1.12. So lots of things that are in the next milestone for 1.11.3. Also, this was mentioned a while back that we had a problem with the installer, that when it automatically was doing localhost versus 127.0.0.1 conversions, that wasn't working quite correctly. I think we have a RTBC on that issue as well, but I didn't put that in the agenda beforehand, so I don't have the number handy. Anyway, lots of reasons for us to progress and make the 1.11.3 release kind of sooner rather than later, because we've got a fair number of items that are starting to add up there. All right, next up, 1.12. 1.12 is the next minor version that will be coming out January 15th, 2019 on Backdrop's 4th birthday. And we've got some really interesting things that are being tackled here. Automatic updates is in issue 2018 is the big meta, and then there is a sub-issue actually where most of the activity is happening in 414. And this still needs just more feedback and more testing, basically. It does look like everything works the way that we would expect it to. Yeah, there has many updates here recently, so I won't recap this too much, but automatic updates is something we've been pushing for and would add a really big usability enhancement and maintenanceability enhancement for Backdrop. So automatic updates is still definitely a key item for 1.12. Small issue, adding tags to modules and enhancing the modules page is issue number 37. Recent reviews that Gregory put together indicate that this may need a little bit of work still. So that's probably back in the developer's hands to reproduce the problems that are described there and rework the pull request. Issue number 1005 is options element in core, user experience enhancement to making select list options. There's been a lot of comments on that saying people have tried it out and they think it looks awesome, but we haven't had anybody so bold as to mark it reviewed and tested by community yet. So that one still needs review, although code-wise, it had looked good to me last time I gave it a review. I think maybe that might be primarily what we're held up on, is that from the front end perspective, everybody thinks it's amazing, but it could probably still use a code review to move it into the RTBC state. Fieldable file types. This is a big issue that we've had ready for a couple of months now, 2632. The status of it is that it currently needs review. but it's been expressed by the author, Doc Wilmot, that really what we need in this issue isn't necessarily code review, but it's paring down what is in the pull request so that it's smaller. Because if we have certain things that are going to hold that issue up, we should just take them out and deal with them later. Because right now it's an absolutely massive pull request that moves all of the file entity module from Drupal 7 essentially into core. And if any of the complications are going to hold up merging into core, then we should just postpone those and do them later as separate pieces. It would also make reviewing the pull request a lot easier if it weren't so massive. So I've reviewed that recently, and it looks really great, like from as far as the code is concerned, even though it's absolutely massive. It is a little bit concerning just about the size of it. So I would say I would be in agreement there. If there's anything that is holding up the pull request, we should start looking at what we can remove if those things are being blockers for it being completed. Let's see, adding support for trusted host patterns. This is a backport from Drupal 8 and now 7, 2382. Has a pull request, needs review and feedback.
So yeah, basically the feedback is how it's implemented now is different from the D8 version, as in nothing gets blocked if it's not configured. And even when you configure it, it doesn't block the site. So it's just there's just an error message in the status page to indicate that this setting has not been configured in settings PHP, but beyond that, it doesn't do anything else. So my thoughts were that perhaps because, as you said, this feature is causing a lot of frustration to D8 people, maybe we should demote it from an error to a warning. And then also there's discussions in the D8 queue, in the Drupal.org queue, of whether there should be a setting, a UI provided in the admin interface to set it from the admin interface. And the questions there are, should we include it in the installer as well? And if yes, should it, not meeting that requirement, block the installer or just be a warning again? So these are the less intrusive thing is to just demote it to a warning and just leave it as it is now, like an informative thing that, hey, this could lead to problems.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of makes me wonder if I mean, I think the status report is a great way to increase the visibility of things that could be corrected. But it makes me wonder if this is the sort of thing that maybe it's not even a problem until, it's not even something that needs to be fixed until it becomes a problem on your site. Like if somebody's pointing a different domain name at your site.
Yeah. So the message includes a link with a D.org article which explains in detail with the possible dangers for vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities are. So I thought maybe you or someone with better knowledge of stuff like that could give it a review and see how severe the possibility of a site being hacked is. If it's not much of an issue, we could demote it to a warning and let it be.
Yeah. Yeah, recently clients that I've had encountered this have the Apache, like the host name configured at the Apache level, so it's not even possible to do this functionality, which kind of is a curiosity for me about whether or not this is like a hosting problem, something in the hosting sphere that probably is not, that might not be even appropriate for a backdrop to push into people's faces. I do think that it's important that we provide the capability. I think that I don't think there is anything to be opposed about having the ability to do this.
Yeah, it just bothers me that for most installations, the minute that the installation finishes, there will always be an error.
Yeah.
This bothers me. So if we are not, and this combined with the fact that we are not actually doing anything with it, like even if you add a blank entry in the array, in the configuration array, or set it to example.com, something that is not actually the domain that you're working with, it still passes. So we're not doing actually anything with it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I haven't had a chance to look over
Sure.
that documentation there. So we'll take a look at it. And yeah, everybody, please post your own feedback about that option at 2382. Okay. And lastly, in the 1.12, Q is working on getting our libraries up to date. There's been several new versions of CKEditor, and we would like to update CKEditor to the latest version at 3355. jQuery and jQuery UI, we continue to kind of have some questions around how to deal with that right now. Right now, we're still running the unsupported version of the 1.x branch of jQuery, and moving to 3.x, which is the current version, poses some challenges for us, like doing backwards compatibility layer might be an option, but it might also not be an option. I don't think that there's anything that provides all of the layers we need altogether.
The compatibility layer is actually for the 2.x version, as far as I can recall.
Mm-hmm.
So you currently have 1.x, 2.x, and 3.x. 2.x has an additional sort of like module that you can install that provides pretty much the same thing that we do with the function wrappers for deprecated functions. So I think baby steps. So if we are considering to upgrade, maybe the safest option would be to go to 2.x.
With the compatibility layer?
Yes, yeah.
Is 2.x supported?
I think, yeah. I can check it out and I can comment on the ticket, but I think yes.
Yeah, that could be a good option then. Okay, that's it for the 1.12 status update. There's more issues, as always, in the GitHub issue tracker for the 1.12 milestone. I think that Jeff isn't around to give an update on Backdrop for Good. So we'll go into just general discussion and Q&A if you guys have anything you guys would like to bring up on the recording. Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
I think that the taxonomy translation topic. Yeah, it's about an issue to provide taxonomy translation, which means the translation of taxonomy terms, which then would mean that terms have a language, and that so we don't have translation sets for taxonomy, but we can provide a language for the terms. And there came up a question about it in the issue. It's number 2934. And the question was, how should the language of taxonomy terms be set if editors create terms with the autocomplete term widget? Because as you know, the term is just created, but without seeing it or without configuring it. And so was the question, which language is set to this term? And in Drupal 7, it was that the autocomplete term follows the language of the interface language. And then I thought that's a bit strange, and it should instead follow the content language if content translation is enabled. And so, and then Herb Duhl said that first, that would be quite difficult to implement. And secondly, he was also skeptical if it's if you can implement it in a robust way. And at the third point, he was also concerned about compatibility for people who are coming from Drupal. And so we started this discussion, and I think, it's quite interesting discussion, but I guess we could need some more feedback on it. because we're discussing it with 3 persons up to now. And for example, I had the idea with the content translation, following the content translation, the content language, but I'm absolutely not sure. It seems like a good idea to me, but
yeah, it also seems a good idea to me. Like, from a workflow perspective, it seems that the proper thing to do, but implementation-wise, there's some challenges, as we said. And then Herb mentioned that perhaps if we implement the minimal product that we can implement to have terms translated, we can leave that for a follow-up. But my main concern with that is that so long as we make sure that with the implementation, we do not block any of the available options for the follow-up.
Yeah, great ideas all. And do you guys know from your research on this, like the way that taxonomy terms translate right now, is it run through just the T function? Is that how that works?
No, so it's basically going to be creating new terms. It's not going to be translation of existing terms. It's going to be new terms with a language.
I see.
Like the menu item translation.
Yes. So it's not going to be translation sets. It's going to be different, entirely different. Which translation sets would be the ideal thing to do? Because then you could provide a tab in each term when you edit it, which says translate, and then you could translate it to different languages. But we don't have that currently in core. Ideally, that's what we would like to go to, but I don't think we're ready for that yet.
Yeah, but I think it's this PR from Herbdul is quite nice because it's a simple way to start to use multilingual sites with taxonomy.
Yeah.
And it's nice and simple. So
yeah, the Lion module, the internationalization module is a big module. It's a beast. So it will take us time to implement everything that it offered, or most of the things that people expect in core. So that could take a year, it could take 2. In the meantime, if we have that implementation of allowing languages to be specified for each term, it could be an intermediate sort of like state.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, great. I think at the very least, it looks like, this would be a minimal thing that we would need in the future anyway, So it seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, by the way, should we change the milestone to 1.12? What do you think? Now it's 1.future, I think.
Yeah, sure, we can try.
Yeah, I'll change that. Yep, that's done.
that helps with visibility. I think anything that seems like it's practical, I think it's a good idea to bump it into the next milestone kind of optimistically, even if it gets bumped out again later.
Yeah, we could, and it so happens that so many tickets, we just build something minimal and then we push the follow-ups for the next release or for future. We can do the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
No worries.
Yeah, thanks, Olaf. Anything else from anybody? Okay, well, let's call it the end of the meeting then. Thank you all for joining this meeting once again, and thank you everybody out there that's watching these Backdrop updates. We'll reconvene again next week, same time as always, Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So thank you all. See you.
Bye.
Yeah.